Alright, today we're going to be talking about some simple and compound interest. This is the main point of the whole video. I equals PRT. This is the equation that we're going to be using for both simple interest and compound interest. The I is the interest that you are going to be making. The P is the principal. Basically, the principal is what is the initial money that you invest. R is whatever the interest rate that you're given is. This is going to be a percent, but this is important. It must be a decimal. And then T deals with time. It's extremely important that it is in years. So if we give you months, you must convert it into years. So now we're going to be solving some problems about simple interest. Remember, our equation, I equals PRT. In these two, what we're going to be doing, we are going to be solving for the interest. We're trying to find how much interest we have made. So I'm going to do the first one off to the left. You're going to do the first one off to the right. So the first one that we have $1,000 is the principal. 4.5% is the rate, and we've been given 2 years. So when we set this up, we have our interest rate, is what we're trying to find. Now the P, the principal, is $1,000. I'm just going to put these all in parentheses. The rate, remember, it must be in a decimal. So 4.5% as a decimal, move it 2 places to the left. So it's 0.045. And the time is 2 years. So we're just going to make it 2. Now basically all that we do, now that we have it all set up, all we have to do, multiply it through. When we do that, we end up with $90. So basically what this means is if we invest $1,000 at a 4.5% interest rate for 2 years, after those 2 years, we are going to get back the $1,000 plus $90. So the interest that we will receive is $90. So what I want you to do, I want you to pause the video, try this one off to the side. There's a little bit of a tricky part. So pause the video, try this one off to the side, off to the right, unpause the video when you're ready to see what I've done. Okay, so again, we're trying to find the interest. So we have I equals PRT. So we have our interest. Our principal that we're going to have is $240. Our rate, remember, change the percent into a decimal. So it's 0.08. Now, remember, this is 6 months. We're not multiplying it by 6 because, remember, it has to be in years. So how many years are in 6 months? There are basically 0.5 years. Or that's the same as 1/2 of a year. But I'm going to use 0.5, or 1/2. So I multiply by 1/2. Now when we multiply that, we get an interest rate, or we get the amount of interest as 9.6. But remember, we're talking about money here. So this is basically $9.60. So what this means is if we invest $240 at 8% for 6 months, we will get an interest of $9.60. Now we're going to be working with some compound interest. So basically the difference between compound interest and simple interest is that after 1 year, the principal changes and then you have to move to use a different principle. So I'll show you what I mean by on this first one. So we're going to solve it as the same exact way. We have our I equals PRT. So where our principal is $480, our rate is 0.05 or 5/100ths. We're multiplying it by 2 years. But instead of multiplying it by 2 years, because that's simple interest, I am only going to multiply it by 1 year. When we do that, we get $24. Now, what we do now, we add this $480 and this $24. So if we do 480 plus 24, we get $504. Now, that's how much we're going to get after 1 year. So what we do now is we're basically going to do the exact same thing, but instead of using $480, we're going to use $504. So now we have our I equals PRT again, but instead of using the $480, because that's the first year, we're going into the second year now. So we're going to multiply it, $504 times 5/100ths times 1, because this is the next year. So how much is that going to be? That is $25.20. So after the 2 years, how much money do we actually make? So we take this $504 that we made after our first year, the interest that we make from here, we add these together. So how much money are we getting? In total, for those 2 years with compound interest, we would get $529.20. So remember what I did? I solved it through the first time, but I only did it for 1 year. This is the interest after the 1 year, so I added those two together. This is how much money, total money, we would make after the first year. Now the second year, because we're compounding it into the second year, this 504 goes into a new equation, and we basically do it again. Add them together, and that's how we find the compound interest. Now what I want you to do, I want you to try this one off to the right, but it's going to be for 3 years. So that means you're going to have to do, this is 1 year, this is 2 years, you're going to have to do it for 3 years. This might take a little bit of time, but try your best. Look off to the left if you need a little bit of help. Unpause the video when you're ready to see what I've done. Alright, so we have $595 at 4.75% interest rate for 3 years. We want to find out what the compound interest is going to be. So I'm going to do the 595 times 0.0475 times 1, and that equals $28 and roughly 26 cents. Add those together for the total for the first year, the $595, because that's the beginning. That's the beginning interest with the $28.26. We get $623.26. So that's the what the interest that we would, or that's the total that we would make after the first year. Second year, we would use this $623.26, multiply it by the interest rate again, times 1. When we do that, that is equal to $29.60. When we add those together, if we have the $623.26 plus the $29.60 of interest that we make, we would have $652.86. That is year 2. Now, finally, year 3, we use that $652.86 times the interest rate times 1. We get $31.01. Now what we do, add the $652.86 plus the $31.01 to get a final amount of $683.87. This is our final answer. I know it's a lot of work, but that's what compound interest is for. Simple interest is simple. Compound interest, a little bit harder. Takes a little bit more time. Just remember your steps. As a quick review, I equals PRT. I is the interest, P is the principal, the amount of money that you put in, R is the interest rate. When you deal with this, you need to put it in a decimal. T deals with time. Time as in years. If it's in months, convert it to years. Look back over your notes if you have any questions. As always, remember down in the comments section that there are a couple videos that I've linked if you have any other questions. Let me know if you have anything that you need to ask. Thanks. Have a good one.